Unbelievable. What good is it being king if I can't do anything without absolute rule? This Magna Carta that my incompetent, foolish father, King John, had to sign, giving my subjects freedom and liberties. To me, it's just a list of things that I can't do. I can't raise taxes. I can't raise an army. I can't even wage war without getting permission from the barons, from Parliament. Can't do nothing. Oh, what a way to rule. And I spent a good deal of time trying to reclaim lost lands and territories in France that once belonged to my grandfather, Henry II. Here I am, pacing back and forth, completely bored, trying to come up with ways to surpass Magna Carta and do whatever I please and regain my lands. Really can't do nothing. Freedoms, liberties. Unbelievable. And I'm sitting here in my own living quarters, just completely bored, doing whatever I can to regain what's mine. Really can't do anything. That's how it is. Magna Carta, the Great Charter. What good is it to be king if I can't do anything? I can't do anything without the barons saying so. Unbelievable. Until one day, a man came to my court, a French knight by the name of Simon de Montfort. A good man of good faith, a man of God. A no nonsense kind of man that I needed. And he saw the same thing with me, and we both looked at each other and go, I can use a man like that. We became good friends. And then one day I betrothed my own sister Eleanor to him. And you know what? Big mistake. I should have betrothed her to other European rulers to secure a political alliance. I betrothed her, but I'd give de Montfort dowry for my sister's betrothal instead of hanged on to the money. And then one day I find out de Montfort takes out a fat loan, using me as guarantor without me knowing. I confronted him. All he did was just give me one lame excuse. I told him and my sister if they did not leave my sight, I was going to lock them up in the tower. I wasn't kidding. And they immediately went to France. And then I learned that de Montfort was on a crusade. And then one day I launched an attack on the French town of Poitou, reclaimed lands, territory that belonged to my ancestor. And of course, the barons used Magna Carta to prevent me from gaining any taxes. Instead, I went right ahead anyway. And of course, like the last two times, all ended in expensive defeat. My own forces got chased out by the entire French army. and the Count of Poitou's brother is the French king, Louis IX. I cower into a church in a nearby town, praying, asking God for help, and then here comes de Montfort from behind. What he said to me next was very treasonous, telling me that I should be locked up, like Charles III, also known as Charles the Simple, a notorious, useless French king. His own subjects put him in jail for being such a bad general. Even though treasonous, Montfort was right, and I couldn't call him out on it, knowing that I had failed yet again to reclaim lands. How pathetic I was. And then one day I received a letter from the Pope telling me, with a great idea of his that would have helped me derail and surpass Magna Carta. Best idea ever. To invade Sicily. Now that was a helpful suggestion. Even though it's a mad and insane idea. But Sicily is 1,000 miles away from England. I asked the barons if he can raise the tax money and help me gain the armies and everything else to prepare for an invasion. And then, instead of giving me the money, here comes de Montfort. Something else that further limits my power. The provisions of Oxford, giving both him and the barons to manage all my affairs of state here in England. If I thought Magna Carta was bad enough, the provisions of Oxford really give me something to complain about. What happened next? Me, de Montfort, and a few other barons swear allegiance to uphold it. But like any other king, I broke my promise. So I pulled my half-brother and his own family out of exile so I can start regaining power again. What happened next? Full-blown civil war. The Battle of Lewis. I felt so confident, even though my forces were 2-1 against de Montfort's. Even though de Montfort hurt his leg and ankle on the battlefield, and yet still I lost. I became de Montfort's prisoner, his puppet, and my son, Prince Edward, gets held under house arrest, held somewhere else. Oh, I was not pleased. Making de Montfort the most powerful man in England and him taking over my realm. I was not happy about it. When I heard about my son Edward breaking free by getting away on horseback, I was pleased. Edward manages to secure an army, the allegiance of the nobles, because they feared de Montfort might take the crown from me. This Edward made a deal to keep the reforms, both Magna Carta and the provisions of Oxford. As soon as Edward's forces were close by, What does the Montfort do? He has me dressed in one of his old military uniforms and said, if he goes down, I go down with him. Once the war had started, I found out that Edward had sent a 12-night hit squad to find de Montfort and to take him down. I came this close to being killed on sight until I shouted out to Edward's men that I was the king. And then I ended up finding out Montfort suffered a battle wound to the throat. And as pleased as I was, Edward's men chopped him up into pieces and put his head on a spear. My hope of absolute rule dies with de Montfort, so I have no choice but to deal with Magna Carta and the provisions of Oxford to the end of my days. I may have won the battle, but Edward was the one. But Edward was the one who won the war. But the only good thing is, one of my greatest projects of all time, Westminster Abbey, one of my greatest projects to God. All I can do is just sit back, just deal with the mayhem, deal with everything that I have struggled so long to get what I want. Now I gotta learn to play by the rules with Magna Carta and the provisions of Oxford. Well, all I can do is sit back and mope. I thank my son Edward for managed to pull everything off. Well, all I can do is sit back, basically do nothing, unless whatever it is I want, I have to ask the barons. I just have to learn to cope with it forever. Well, just gotta sit back, enjoy my days. Until I come up with something. One day, maybe hopefully one day I can override Magna Carta and everything else. Because I please, but I have to think about as long as I live. What a rough way to be king. I have to learn to play by the rules. Well, if my subjects want liberties,